The Word became human, John 1:14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. The first two Gospels, Matthew and Mark, were written between 50 and 60 AD, and then Luke came after around 60 to 61 AD. Matthew and Luke give us our traditional story of the baby born in a smelly barn, and Mark moves fast, and he jumps in right at the baptism of Jesus. And perhaps in the early years of the church, people thought mostly of the lowly human side to the incarnation. After all, it's a side that we most naturally relate to, right? So when John writes his gospel 20 to 30 years later, it's a very different side of the same coin. And we don't even find out who he's writing about until verse 17. John describes a being that he calls the Word in such awe-inspiring language that it doesn't sound like a human being at all. So let's consider John's words as if we're reading them for the very first time. The Word existed in the beginning. So he's really old. That's pretty cool. Some kind of really old being became human. That's where it starts. The Word was with God in the beginning. Okay, so he's powerful and on God's side with direct access to God too. And that's important to know. All things that were made through the Word. Wait a second. So, he wasn't just there at the beginning. He wasn't created then, but he was a creator. He's really powerful and designed and created every single particle upon which he then built everything in the vast universe. That creator being became a human? This is getting interesting. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The true light, which gives light to everyone. So he not only has jaw-dropping power, there's some kind of special life in him that's shining forth to everyone. And there's no place this light can't touch or reach. I wonder what this life is. Any stipulations on getting it from him? We read, to all who receive him, who believe in him, he gives the right to be called children of God, born of God. So the Word has power from God, but also has the authority to change humans into children of God. That's incredible. Yet not for all people, but only those who believe in him. That makes sense. This must have been an amazing being to see. What was that like? Well, verse 14 says, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So, when John lived with the Word, he saw a unique glory from God, a glory shining full of grace and full of truth, like no other being ever has. Can you imagine seeing that? And yet he became human. He became flesh, not just a God looking like a human. John the Baptist, a prophet of God, also saw this glory. And the first time he saw the Word, he cried out, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." I can't take away a single sin from myself, let alone the world. Who is this being? I wouldn't be surprised at all if the next verse said that the Word was a giant man with a gold sash, white hair, bronze legs, and eyes like a flame of fire, and a two-edged sword coming from his mouth, and a face like the sun shining in full strength. He actually does show back up looking exactly like that in Revelation. But verse 29 actually says, he looked at Jesus as he walked by and said, "Behold the Lamb of God." So the Word is Jesus, You mean all this elaborate introduction is all about a cute, helpless baby born in a smelly barn? That's the Word? The being John is describing and saying you have to believe in to be called a child of God? The unattractive, poor Jewish rabbi who died as a criminal? Yes. You see, he was born to do the work of a lamb, so his power is veiled in weakness and humility. He will do the work of a lion one day and will come dressed in terrible beauty. So embrace the kindness and approachability Jesus offers when you look into his patient, forgiving human eyes, but do not fail to also see the powerful fire of heavenly holiness and of cosmic creation burning there.